All right. So I am so excited. Let me begin with a few questions. As a woman, young lady, or girl, think back to childhood, teen years, college years, or your entry into the workforce. Have you ever experienced being left out of a clique or group of girls with usually one girl as the queen bee or ringleader? I'm raising my hand. Have you ever experienced a deadly or destructive type of friendship, friends one day and then backstabbing next? Have you ever experienced passive aggressive behavior or rude comments from another female about your looks, clothes, or the way that you dress? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you are in the right place. Our speaker has 20 plus years of organizational consulting, owns her own business, and is an expert in female rivalry. She is here to talk about what female rivalry really means, how to detect the behavior, how to know if it's impacting you, and how to foster collaboration over competition to uplift and support one another. Love it. When not working, she can be found spending time with her husband, 2 kids, and her four-legged fur baby, Stella. Helping us today to explore behind the Frenemy lines, rising above female rivalry to be unstoppable together. Please join me in welcoming from Lothian, Virginia, speaker, author, and lover of red wine, Dr. Amber Tichenor. Yay!
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I've been working with Kim the past, since February, right? I think, and I feel like I've known her much longer. So I've so enjoyed working with her and working on my book, and I'm glad that she was able to introduce me to all of you lovely ladies. I'll dive in a little bit about my background, and then how I organized this. I just asked a few basic questions to myself and then answered them, but please feel free to chirp in and ask questions, because I think if anybody has experienced this before, it might look a little bit different for everybody, for sure. So as Kim said, and then as Valerie mentioned, I don't know if she knows this about me, but for years I was an organizational change management consultant. And so I interacted with leaders and I did a lot of work for the public sector. And while I was working, I went back to school and I got my dissertation, and my background's in organizational psychology. So what I wanted to focus on was an issue that happened between women in the working environment. And at that time, I'd had little bits and pieces that had been, I'll say, targeted or applied to me, you know, being excluded or left out or little things like that. But I hadn't had a full rivalry targeted toward me. Fast forward to living in Virginia and working at a local consulting, on a local consulting project. And I had it happen to me and I didn't know it was happening. And mind you, I'd studied this for years. I've interviewed tons of women about their experience. I thought that through them, I pretty much knew what this was all about inside and out. And it shocked me that I couldn't see it when it was right in front of me and I was knee deep in it. And it wasn't until I was driving to work one day and I was talking to my mom on the phone and she said, "I just hate to see you doubt yourself, all because of what this woman is doing to you." And I just had this, red light moment. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm knee deep in it. And if I have studied it extensively as I have, and if I know the ins and outs, yet I didn't see it, what is it doing to women who don't have the insight that I have? And I immediately went in and quit my job. I was a consultant, and my husband's like, "Most people have a backup plan." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but whew, I saw red." So anyhow, that's how 2B Coaching and Consulting came about. I looked for other work, but this just kind of, this kept coming back to me about there's a need out there. Anytime that women had asked what I had studied or written my dissertation on, they always go, oh yeah, I know all about that. And so this is what I started to focus on. So a lot of times when people ask what I do and I say female rivalry, they're kind of like, oh, well, what does that mean? And I'll say, oh, it's the cat fight or women being dramatic, and they'll nod their heads. But I've come up with my own personal definition of it as well. And so female rivalry is one woman minimizing another woman so they both feel small, smaller than they really are. Female rivalry hurts individuals, teams, and organizations. So when I did my research on this topic, there wasn't a lot out there that pertained to women. And I was focusing at that point only in the working environment, but I've since expanded it to everyday life because I think it doesn't really have any boundaries. But it stems from a component of aggressive behavior. And female rivalry, in my mind, is the broader banner of the types of mean girl behaviors that can occur. So bullying, judging, intangible behaviors, passive aggressive behaviors, the things that you kind of can feel, but you may not always directly see. I believe there's 3 different layers of it. So there's competition, envy, and jealousy. So competition is probably the least harmful. In fact, I actually think positive competition can be a great motivator. It can, and urge us to work well together, but bring out the best in us. Envy is when it gets a little bit of an edge, and it can be good until it's not good. And then when it cuts to the I want you out of the picture, or I don't, or a little bit of envy can go to where then it turns to jealousy, and then that's hateful, like I want you gone, or I want something you have, I deserve it, that type of thing. So in my mind, and I just wrote a post about this because tomorrow is National Stop Bullying Day. And so female rivalry, if it is ongoing, it's a form of bullying behavior. So there's a lot of personas that come with it. You may be familiar with some I've gone to the Urban Dictionary to help me out a bit, but the queen bee, there's the backstabber, there's the leader of the clique, there's exclusion, there's gaslighting, mean girl, the vixen, the frenemy. And then under frenemy, that's what the title of my book is based on. There's a whole bunch of other terms in that, but it can start really young. Often movies portray it as beginning in middle school or high school. I have a 6th grade daughter that just started middle school, and I honestly started in happening with her probably in 2nd, 3rd grade. And so it happens young. Some signs, if you see it occurring, you can be purposefully excluded. She may struggle with envy. She may steal your work. She may lie or spread gossip or rumors about you. She's a bully. She might struggle with anger. She's power hungry. She may create conflict or have intimidation tactics, and she may rationalize or minimize how you are feeling, especially if you confront her about it. So before I go on to the next little chunk, any thoughts about what I've said with that little group of thoughts?
I was just going to jump in and say, I remember it from middle school. I was surprised when you and I started working together that it could happen as young as like 2nd or 3rd grade.
I even saw it in kindergarten, which actually shocked me. And I've studied this. I thought, oh my gosh, like, and you don't know if it's something that's internal or if it's I think some of it's a learned behavior, and some of it does stem internal, but it's a combination, but it's so young. Yeah. So any other questions?
I was just going to add, having moved so much as a young child in schools, and every school you went to, you weren't in the clique. And
yeah.
So you just felt excluded and left out. And I wasn't very athletic, and I had flat feet, so I would fall and stumble. The kids are just mean,
Yeah.
None of that was my fault. It just was, I had flat feet. When we figured that out, I quit falling over my feet, but I could run and, do things that were athletic if you didn't have any balance. But kids are lovely. I mean,
and anything that's a little bit different, it's something that can be a judgment or something to be picked on. And often, though, it stems from an insecurity within the other person, but especially when they're young. It's, my daughter's experiencing something right now, and I'm like, you can't control their behavior, you can only control yours. But it, that's something that's easier said and understood as we're older, that versus at such a young age. But it's not easy. And the thing is, as Debbie, you've mentioned, and Kim, you mentioned, I had something in grade school too. And you know what? You don't forget it at all. Mm-mm. So another question that I brought up is, because I get this one a lot, why do women act this way toward each other? And what is the source of it? So that was a huge foundation of my research, and I was very curious, but there wasn't much out there about it when I started to do the research, except for like popular, media type things. But so what I went to was social intelligence and aggressive behaviors. So at a young age, all children will exhibit similar direct aggressive traits, but little girls will develop social intelligence earlier than little boys were, and will about ages 6 to 8. And so as a result, they begin to exhibit indirect aggressive behaviors earlier than boys will. And sometimes boys just show it differently. I mean, even think men, if I'll give an example, if they're in a boardroom arguing about something and they're, well, Tom, I didn't say that. Well, Tim, blah, blah, blah. And then give them an hour later and they're out on the golf course having a beer together and everything's behind them and they're, hanging out like nothing bad happened. Women are, they kind of go for the jugular and they cut. So another key factor of it is healthy competition between women has kind of been off limits as the way our society enforces it. It's not female or ladylike for women to compete with each other. So that's been off limits. And society tends to endorse the behavior as something to be made fun of or to take lightly, like the cat fight or women being dramatic. Look at social media or TV and all the reality shows and how often women are put in this role of going head to head against each other, and people find it funny. But, is it really? I don't think it is. It's not. But it's been going on for years. I was doing research the other day about how far back some of these famous female feuds have gone. And I think I'm going to get it wrong, but there was a movie 2 years ago about Queen Elizabeth and I think her cousin. I can't think of the name of the movie, but that she had her killed at some point.
Mary Queen of Scots.
Yes. I have it on my DVR to watch, but
that is correct. She got her imprisoned and killed.
Yeah, and
decapitated. Yes, that's true.
That's very vicious. I mean, that's a lot more deep than what I've seen, but yes. So
there's more to it than female rivalry. It's about power over the country and all that. So
yes, but
that didn't help.
No, that certainly didn't help. And another thing with women is women tend to judge themselves based on her or other women. So it's the perception of other women that through comparisons, maybe of your mom, your sister, your friends, your colleagues, and that's in turn how frequently you see yourself. So is that right or wrong? No, but it can be if it turns to negative or envy or jealousy. So if you're having a positive, it's great that we're all different and we all see each other in different lights, but that can definitely be a trigger for it. And because competition in women often towards other women is about their own personal identity. So, but some key internal drivers are fear, low self-esteem, the need for control, insecurity, jealousy, and sometimes it's shame. Often what you feel the most vulnerable in would be something that you might target towards somebody else if you don't feel secure in that thought or feeling. It can be learned behavior from other females in your life. I think often when I see these little girls on the playground and they're doing things that are shocking, I'm like, they didn't just come up with that on their own, but I hope not. But it can be instilled in growing up from an environment you're in, or it can also be a learned behavior from somebody leading you to believe that you are not good enough. So those are a couple key points about the sources. I'm sure there are a lot more, but those are some of the key ones that I've found in my research. Any thoughts on that information?
Yeah, I find it so interesting, and you touch on it in your book, but how I think there's a mindset of scarcity, like, and sometimes it is true, because maybe in a workplace there are only so many executive positions or something like that, but you feel, I think sometimes women feel like, oh, you know, she's going to take my spot, you know, that kind of possessive reaction. Yep. Instead of being supportive of, you know, the other women on your team, it's kind of like, oh, I got to drag her down, you know. It's
or being intimidated if I'm a coach and you're a coach. Even if we are doing similar things, we are very different people, and the way that we would come at it might be very different. And so, you know, if I have a client that maybe isn't a good fit for me, I could share that with you, and vice versa, but we're not alike. And so that's where our differences lie. But so often it's hard for people to get over and understand. So with all of these lovely behaviors that I've just mentioned, I get the question frequently, how does it make you feel? Well, it sucks, actually. And if you've been on the receiving end, it can be horrible. And it makes you feel small. You lose your shine, you lose your voice, your world is gray. If it happens at work, it doesn't just stay at work, you take it home with you. It impacts everything. And I remember when I went through it at work, before I realized what was going on, I remember my sister-in-law saying, "What's wrong with you? You've like changed. Like, is work, are you stressed out?" And but I couldn't voice it. I didn't know, but I knew I just lost my joy and I was unhappy. I knew I'd tried to work it out with this woman and put it back on me. What can I do to make our communication better? What can I do to make the project work? And she never would, she would minimize how I was feeling and the behaviors she exuded toward me. And so it made me feel like I was a little bit crazy. So, and because the behavior is intangible or hard to pinpoint, it's very hard to share it with others, because especially if you are in a working situation, and let's say you want to report it to HR, it's hard to have that information to really go give to somebody. Other people may see it. If she's really good at it, chances are they may not. And I've seen it at work. I've seen it in social situations too, that when it does happen, it makes everybody feel a little bit awkward. So everybody kind of acts like they didn't see it happening at all. And so they just tiptoe around it. There may be a level of fear associated with it, especially if at work, because, you know, if that's your paycheck. And so if you have to go through this woman to get paid, or, you know, she's part of your review process or anything of that nature, there is a level of control and power, and that puts you at an unequal standing. You may feel confused and crazy or doubt yourself. Frequently when women are in it, they won't talk about it. And it's because, again, it's hard to pinpoint, and because you lose your voice. But when you're knee deep in it, there's a lot of negative emotions that can happen to it. I've had a couple women say that, and I've never had PTSD, but I've had a couple women say that they surely felt like they had that after experiencing something. But some of these stories that they've shared, my gosh, they've probably gone on a couple years. So it's not like it, you know, it wasn't a one-time thing, but just was some really ugly behavior at its finest. And with it, there are physical, mental, emotional, and psychological effects. A lot of women have said they felt ill, like in certain health issues would arise. The Sunday blues, like you'd wake up you'd go to bed Saturday dreading Monday because you knew tomorrow was your last day at home before you had to go to work the next day. Just nothing really positive comes out of it. And so I've had a lot of women who've experienced it say they will never work for another female again. They will never work on an all-female team. And they have a hard time making friends or don't feel like they have a real circle of friends as a result of something that they've experienced, whether from a personal friend, a family member, or somebody in the working environment. Any questions on that type of insight?
Well, I was going to say, reminded me of a situation a few years ago. And it was someone that we were friends for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
We're not friends anymore, but back then we used to do a lot of things together, and we would be in a crowd of people, women and men. So there might be 5 to 10 of us getting together and doing things. But I noticed and I'm just saying, I'm giving you this experience because I don't think sometimes people realize or recognize that they're doing these things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the way they do it is so very subtle that it's hard to
doubt it. It's hard to see it. Mm-hmm.
Right. So anyway, whenever her and I were together, I was like her shoulder. She would tell me her problems and I'd kind of help her get through them. But I noticed that whenever we were in a group of people, she would always say demeaning things about me, or a snide remark or a joke. And it was very obvious to me over time. And finally, I just called her out on it, and I asked her why she did that. And she was totally unaware of it. I mean, and she cried about it. She was just totally unaware of it. But it was so very real to me because every time in a context where we were around a lot of people, she would do something that was demeaning towards me.
Wow. And to go on that long, it makes you feel horrible.
Right. And but the thing was, when I finally confronted her with it, she didn't recognize it. She got defensive, and then the friendship pretty much dissolved.
Do you think it also, maybe in hindsight, that it was something she maybe did realize and felt ashamed or guilty about it?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. I just know how it made me feel at the time.
Sure.
I tried to laugh it off the first few times, but then it was harder and harder to let it go.
Yeah. It's not a laughable behavior when you're the target of something that doesn't make you feel good.
And I guess to me, I'd rather end the friendship and feel good about myself than have someone that was, supposing to be a friend that would treat me in that way.
Well, I'm sure you, after a while, if there was a pattern, you probably felt on guard, like you were walking on eggshells or not knowing, when the other shoe would drop. And my thought when I've heard these stories or people will ask questions, is that a true friend? And it's not, unfortunately, but you look at 20 years of history and it's hard to let that go too. So that's a very hard situation to be in. Any other thoughts or questions?
Yes, I do. And hopefully mine's is appropriate because I just came in and I caught a little bit of it.
Yeah, no problem.
Say in a group setting like we're in, if we were in the same business and we have different calls, and because of titles, sometimes if they get something wrong, we're a team, and I figure if someone says something wrong, you could say, oh, hey, you can find it here, or, not to correct them, but we are helping each other. Well, sure. It seems to be that if someone else says it, it's okay. But if I said it's not okay. And I'm it's been 4 years and I'm kind of getting tired of it. It's like, applaud the world if someone else says something, the same thing I said. But if I say it, it's kind of like silence, like, okay.
Is it just one person, one individual you're referencing?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my next little section, I'm going to talk about some tips. And so if that doesn't help give you a little insight afterwards, we can definitely revisit it. But when you've gone through it, how do you regain your sparkle, or how do you deal with these types of behaviors? And again, it's never black and white, because I think everybody's experience is so completely different. So first off, it's up to you. Your behavior is the only behavior you have control over. You may be closely associated with other people, but what they do is solely on them, and how you react is solely on you. So regaining your sparkle is up to you, as hard as that can be. There's coping with it. When I did my dissertation on it, I found that the women who really bared their souls and told me all these stories, there were two types of coping. So it was the immediate coping at the scene, which would be having a glass of wine and chatting with women who maybe had experienced something similar, or taking a walk and exercising together, venting with family and friends, your immediate support system. Again, keeping in mind that often when you're in it, you're maybe not clearly focused on truly what's occurring. And then there's coping after the fact, after you're out of it, the internal reflection. And that's more of a mindful coping or proactive coping. I've had a lot of women say it really resonated with them, the behaviors they did not want to target towards other women. So that helped them look at themselves internally to see if what they were doing. Forgiveness was huge when I did research on this, and this kind of surprised me, just because I went into it with no expectations. But you have to forgive the situation, especially if it's been an ongoing big thing. And it doesn't mean you condone her behavior. It doesn't mean you have to forgive her to her face. It means you have to forgive the situation to move on, because if you don't, you're still stuck in it. And ultimately that means she still has control and is winning. So when I interviewed women for my initial research, I think I interviewed 9, and everybody except one had forgiven the situation and moved on. And the one woman that did not forgive it, and hers was a horrible situation, but she'd left, she wasn't in it anymore, but it kind of ate her alive. She became less social, she withdrew, it was really sad. And I knew her through somebody else, but it broke my heart to see that something that had happened to her had taken over. So Lynette, tips to address the behavior. So always, whenever you feel or see things happen, especially because often these behaviors are so intangible, document. Just start keeping notes and keeping track, because you want to show a pattern. This can be in any situation, socially, especially though it's valid in the working environment. If you're going to, someone in HR or someone in your organization, but I would document just so, or even if you're going to her to bring it up, say, well, here's the pattern I've seen. So recognize her intent. As Valerie said, that her friends didn't seem to think she was doing anything, but you saw the pattern that you had targeted towards you, Valerie. So sometimes the intent may be non-intentional, but sometimes there are just women that are not nice, and they know what they're doing. And that's been a hard thing to accept for a lot of women. It's even been shocking when in all the research that I've done to see that there are women that are truly out there to go after other women, but it's the truth. I think the first thing to do if you see it going on is always try to address the situation one-on-one. Maybe I did this when it happened to me at work. We went and got a cup of coffee. We took a little walk around campus, and she denied everything. So I kept documenting, but I knew I had brought it out in the open. So that's, you know, again, you don't have control over her behavior. You have control over yours. So some ways you can also, to deflect or let somebody know you are you see them, is to use humor. So if it's brought out in front of a meeting, in front of other people, well, Tanya, I know you didn't mean that the way it sounded. Let's talk about this. Or, you know, not to make them feel bad, but just to highlight it a little bit. And sometimes people are very, oh gosh, you're right. I didn't mean that to sound that way at all. But sometimes maybe a few digs like that, I'm not saying resort to her level of behavior, but humor can sometimes deflect an uncomfortable situation. I think if it's ongoing, this can be in social settings or groups, or also at work, but establish community and advocate inclusion. So, and implement education about it. So, letting people know that this type of behavior won't be tolerated. You're all inclusive, you're a team, you're working together. Share your experience with others if it gets to that point, and then try to maintain control. And so sometimes you just have to walk away, which is not what many people like to hear, especially in a work environment. If you are that miserable, and that is, you know, bottom line, your paycheck, and you're there how many hours a day, and it's not always so easy just to quit. But, you know, get that resume going and try to find a backup plan, because if the culture is endorsing the behavior, it won't go away. And good women leave a lot because of that. And it's a lack of psychological safety in a working environment. And so that means it's just a negative culture, but you only have control over your behavior, not hers. And sometimes, even if you do all of those things, she's going to deny it. But you know, like Valerie said, she knew she did the right thing, and she stood up for herself. Mm-hmm. Lynette, does that help answer the question?
Yes, it does.
I'm gonna have to circle back with you after.
Say, when someone is like that, to me, it reminds me of being in an abusive relationship. And for me, I can choose not to even to not deal with that person if they're that way, because, you know, I don't want to stay in that type of relationship. So that's how I sometimes do, and said, hey, I'm not even going to deal with you, because, you know, I feel that they're aware of their behaviors, their intent, you know, and I will look at it and step back and ask someone and say, am I taking this the wrong way? You know, so, you know, I just don't go off my assumptions. That's like, maybe I'm coming off in a wrong way. I try to look at myself first to see if there's something I'm doing. But after a while, you feel like, this isn't, I'm not going to be the target here for you to beat up on so you can look bigger, you know.
Exactly.
So.
And if you don't give them the reaction, chances are they can get bored with you and move on. If she's really good at it and she really wants you gone, or wants your job, or just doesn't like you, she'll be relentless. But if you are showing that it impacts you, then chances are it will definitely continue. But Lynette, you brought up a really good point. That was my next little point to address, is how do we recognize and regulate our own catty behavior? And sometimes it's just looking inward. And asking, like you just said, am I contributing to this behavior at all? And what am I doing? It's just good to reflect. One of my big things is practice the pause. Practice before you talk, before you judge, before you act on something, and just, you know, internalize, okay, where is this going to get me? Is it going to be a good outcome or a not so good outcome? And think about the behaviors you exude. Do you practice what you preach? And I've had some women say, well, I'm just shy, you know, and some people think that I'm being snotty or stuck up. And I'm like, just you do you though, because if somebody is judging you on you being shy, everybody's different and not everybody's going to be as vocal, and everybody, you know, sometimes you might take a little bit more to warm up when you're meeting new people. But I think if you are doing you and you are genuine in your own skin, that will shine through and people will see that. So how do we work together to support other women and create a culture that avoids female rivalry? I think it's have empathy and compassion and be kind. Talk about it. If you've experienced this, I think often it's the elephant in the boardroom. It's not talked about, or it's, you know, the popular view of, you know, the women being catty or having cat fights, and people don't really know how serious it can be. Stop your own inner she bully. So if you don't like yourself, you probably aren't going to like other women that much either. So women who like themselves like other women. That's a known fact. You can see it shining out of some females' eyes, like, woohoo, they love to be around women, they love themselves, they're happy. Be an includer. Establish community and advocate inclusion, which I said earlier. And one of my mottos, it's going back to grade school. It's teaching everybody to play nicely in the sandbox. So got to have those old school rules, what we learned then. Sometimes I think nowadays people seem to forget. But, and if it is happening, well, it can be in a social group or in an organization, but put ramifications in place for when the behavior occurs. So just don't let it be tolerated. Have team building exercises so people can get to know each other better. If somebody is shy, that will help bring her out of her shell a little bit. But it's also an outlet of support and bonding, and it helps to change the culture. So you all are getting to know each other as people. And it's proactive versus reactive. So a big thing I talk about in organizations, but it can be in any type of social group, because I think now we have a lot more of that with Zoom, and it's implementing bystander training. So there are code words if you see it happening, or behaviors that just let that the person who's doing it, let them not know that it will be tolerated. So, whew, that's it in a very big nutshell.
That's awesome. I have something to bring up, and as your publisher, I have inside dirt.
Yes, you do.
Inside scoop. But one of my favorite concepts you talk about in the book is the horseshoe versus the circle. I was wondering if you could share about that.
Sure. So there have been a lot of words I've heard. So you have your circle, you have your tribe, you have your group, you have your posse, you have your pod, and then there is the horseshoe. And I've heard of that, and I like that. So in a U shape is to include everybody. And I always have a circle. And when I look at my circle, I have a circle, and then there's varying other circles within. So right in the middle is my core people. And then as you get out a little bit more, then, you know, you have your best friends, and then you have your social friends, and then you have your work friends. And it doesn't mean that I'm excluding anybody. It just means that there's different levels of those people that know me. And so with the horseshoe, some people have said they find a circle to be excluding. And a horseshoe shape or a U shape wouldn't be excluding because it's not cut off. And so that's what Kim is mentioning. I kind of went head to head with the horseshoe in my book, and I'm not disputing that. I think a horseshoe isn't great. I just look at different levels of circles. And I think with anything, are you going to be best friends with everybody? Absolutely not. But you can always be kind. That's just bottom line. Be nice in the sandbox of life.
Yay.
know I wanted to use, I wanted to be sarcastic in a way to let them know that I caught on to what they were saying. You know, I had made an example. I made mention of a conference coming up and say, hey, you need to read the details. The conference is coming up. You know, there's a cutoff date for it. And she says, oh, I thought you were talking about something that's happening tomorrow. And I wanted to say, well, if you wait till the day before the conference, it will be too late. You know, so I wanted to say that, but I didn't.
You
and
held
then I
your tongue.
beat myself up because I didn't snap back at her and say, you know, you're so intelligent. And if you wait till the day before, it's too late for the conference. And so.
I know it's hard. I always think of the best things to say after I've walked away. It's like, but in the moment, I bring out this in my book too. There is it's your fight or flight response. And sometimes when people say something to you and it's shocking, you're kind of startled because you're thinking, oh no, she didn't just say that. And you're caught off guard. So your response doesn't kick in until, of course, after she's walked away or the moment is over. Is that always a bad thing? No, but sometimes it would be nice to have those snappy little responses in your back pocket.
But I don't do it because I care about people and I don't want to, you know. And,
you don't want to be that person.
Right, yeah.
Have you tried talking to her one-on-one?
I don't want to.
Okay.
I have thought about it.
Yeah.
Because it has been going on for so long. Yeah. You know, you step back and say, is this really happening? And it has been going on for so long. And I see it in other different conversations. I thought maybe I don't want to talk to her. I thought about not even attending the meetings because I don't want to be around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just show up and say, no, I don't have anything to say.
Yeah. Is she that way towards other women too?
No. The one of the ladies can say something and it is not based on any knowledge, and she gets rewarded and prize and everything, and all the information is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has something with you, obviously, but yeah, it's not a pleasant feeling to be on the receiving end.
I don't understand it because I don't know her really, and I don't understand it at all.
Probably in her mind, there's some perception, or she is threatened by you for whatever reason, or envious, or it's her own low self-esteem or jealousy. I mean, it could be a number of things, but I guarantee you if it's something of that sort.
So I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
Knowing that you are spiritual, I would suggest you start to pray for this woman, because it will soften your heart against her, and God can start to heal you, and who knows what he'll do on the other end.
Thank you. Yeah, otherwise I was trying to be mean.
Well,
I was just like, I'm going to be mean. I know, and that's not the thing to do.
I've only been really attacked one time by someone who I thought was a really, really good friend. Worked with her closely in my multi-level marketing business. And she blasted me on the telephone. I mean, she laid me slam out. And when she was done, or I thought she was done, I was just completely silent. And she said, "Don't you have anything to say?" I said, "No." Wow. And she said, "Well, I guess this conversation has ended." I said, "Yes." And I hung up. And I was like, where in the world did that come from? And God said, in my spirit, I heard, "I am your defender. You don't have to defend yourself." That didn't come from anything you've done. That was all her. And so that's been within the last probably 6 years. And that's been a really valuable lesson for me.
Yeah.
So,
and chances are, Debbie, if she was that fired up and angry at you for whatever reason, nothing you would have said would have changed her mind, and it would have only fueled the fire.
It would just escalated even more than it already was. And I didn't have anything to say. I just like, look, I don't have anything to say. We're finished.
Look, I hope nobody's from Michigan, but I say it's because she's from Michigan. And everybody I met there so far is rude. No.
This girl is from flat out Chesterfield, so I don't think it matters where you're from.
No.
I was going to ask about this, because you mentioned a little bit in the book, Amber, about women who have experienced this and how they can use it or act differently. And I know like throughout, oh gosh, high school, middle school, high school, you know, I was bullied. I did not fit in. It was awful. And I made it like my mission that I never ever wanted any woman to feel that way, or girl or woman to feel that way. So I always go out of my way to, I'm not patting myself on the back, I'm just saying it influenced how I view other people. If I see someone who's shy or someone who's feeling like maybe they are left out of the circle, I always try to bring them in, you know, if they're open to it.
And I think it goes back to, that's huge. And when the research, that's a big part of it. I think a lot of it has stemmed in that forgiveness. You forgave the situation to move forward and find the positive spin. I'm sure it was horrible, the things that you had experienced, but you're right. Knowing how you do not, I heard this so many times, knowing how I do not want to be treated sticks with me so much so that I'll make sure I won't stoop down to that level. In fact, one woman, I think I bring this story up in the book, she was treated very poorly at a job for probably 5 years. And the one queen bee was leaving to go to another job. And this gal knew she was leaving and had put a gift of earrings on her desk. And the mean girl went around thinking, were these from you? And they would say, no, not from me. And she got to the individual that gave her the earrings and she said, were these from you? Because she was surprised. And the individual responded and said, yes, thank you for showing me how I do not want to be. or for how it was a dig, but she meant it with full, she didn't say it meanly. I forget how she said it, but she said, thank you. You showed me how I don't want to be, or whatever. And I don't think the gal it probably went right over her head because she was mean, but it's like, you can see exactly. It can be very telling.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think sometimes, sometimes I hate to say this because it sounds harsh, but sometimes the worst people in our life are our best teachers because we learn the most from having been exposed to them. That doesn't mean that they are our best friends or someone we need in our lives, but they teach us a lesson.
It's true. When I went through my experience and after studying it, it was the worst experience I could have gone through. And so I hated it when I was in it, and I will never step foot in that office environment again. But it showed me the ins and outs of truly what it feels like. And now I can definitely know it's not somebody I want to be like either. So it's like, okay, it's that check yourself factor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay, I can talk now.
Yay.
All right, I was listening the whole time. So multiple people on here I know that have gone through different abuses from men and women, and including me. And growing up in an abusive childhood, and then of course you doubt yourself, so then you get bullied because people will see you as a target. Yeah. I thought probably around, it took other people to show me, oh my gosh, Emily, you're so cool. Like, even I still doubt myself, but the things that they told me helped me see myself differently. So I was able to look at the world. I started learning how to read people quickly, seeing which kind of people I wanted in my life and which ones I didn't. Which ones are people that are kind, people that you want to help. You know that they'll be receiving of your help, and they won't just pull you down.
Yeah.
So, you know, you want to help people, but there's certain people that you just have to let go because they're toxic. And that's what I do for myself for healing, is just protecting myself and protecting others that I know need to be protected. And like she said, when you see someone who's shy, or you just kind of see someone who needs your help, or just even a friend, just someone to talk to, and that makes you stronger, because you are not letting them still keep you back there in that scared, sad, hurt place, and you are, I don't know, helping other people feel happy and like they have. It's amazing when you see somebody where you felt that way and you're able to be the person who helps them and pulls them out of there.
Yeah.
And I think that makes you strong, because you have a power to help other people. So.
Oh, that's great.
My
It's
dad.
true. Thank you. I love it.
Awesome. So I'll throw it out to everybody. What's one thing that you've taken from what Amber's been sharing this evening?
Say that again.
Oh, what's one thing that you've gotten from what Amber has been sharing with us?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That one thing I need to do first is look within first and see if there's something I'm contributing, because you know I'm that type of person that like to look something up and know based on knowledge. So to make sure that I'm not contributing to it, or I'm not coming off in a way that makes someone wants to defend themselves. So that's one thing I got.
Oh, that's
Thank
huge.
you. That's big.
People from Michigan are mean.
Glad you didn't say Seattle. I'm from Seattle.
Right.
I think for me, I'm just thinking that I have a hard time with confrontation because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. So sometimes it kind of is a form of gossiping, because I don't want to hurt someone else, because I'm trying to talk it through with somebody. And I don't really know how to communicate with the person without hurting their feelings. And so that's on me to figure out how to do that better.
But I've had somebody ask me that before, like, is that gossiping? And I think it depends on who you know you're confiding or sharing with, because I think it's so important to have a sounding board, because especially when these types of behaviors are going on, it is easy to doubt yourself or think. And so to talk it through, or have somebody to talk it through with, is I don't view that as gossiping. Now, if they went and shared it, that's something else. But if it helps you reflect and better understand how to work through the situation, I think that's helpful.
Okay.
So I'm going to say the one of the things, I won't say the only thing, but one of the things that I got from today is that I can't control someone else's behavior. I can only control my own behavior. And so I say that to say that I don't want, like, if somebody's going to be mean to me, then I get to decide whether I want to go to that level or how I want to respond to it. And I say respond, so I don't want to react to it, but I want to be thoughtful about it and decide how I want to respond to it, so that I maintain my own personal integrity in the situation. Easier said than done, I grant.
Oh, Lord, yes.
But that's a goal.
Yeah, always easier said than done, for sure. But it's a constant theme in our house. And I think so many of the things, and I've had moms reach out to me, that things, as you have said to me too, Kim, that things that you experienced when you were in grade school, middle school, high school, I see that with my daughter now, and I can't, like, I have to stop my behavior for exuding onto her what I experience, and I just have to listen and then practice the pause and help her through it. But it comes back flooding, you know, like, oh, you know, that feeling of that being that victim. And I think those are strong feelings that are, you know, hard to overcome.
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of women with low self-esteem and they feel threatened. And if you come in with positivity, I mean, I changed schools in the night, well, a lot, but in the 9th grade, and I went into the band and I had the same name as a popular cheerleader. And she actually went in the bathroom and wrote these unspeakable things on the bathroom walls about me. She didn't have any idea who I was or nothing about me. My mom had to go and scrub all of that off. You know, people are, and you don't know what they're going through, but you're just somebody new coming in and you're happy and positive, and they go in the bathroom and write all kinds of crazy stuff about you, you know, but you don't know what they're going through. I think they should just felt threatened. And there was nothing that awesome about me, I'll just have to say.
You brought up a good point, Debbie. We don't know what else they are going through either. And so that's another thing to reflect upon, even though that can be really, really hard, especially if you are forming a dislike about somebody because of what she's targeting toward you. So,
sure, yeah. And you don't understand that at a young age. So as you evolve and grow, you know, it's like road rage, and you're like, oh Lord, bless them, because I don't know what happened to them today, but somebody peed in their wheelies or something. You just don't know.
It's true.
But you know, half the stuff they sling at you has nothing to do with you personally.
It's from them.
They're carrying around a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
And you can learn to like kind of do this instead of letting it land and stay. You're in a much healthier place. Not easy to do sometimes, but if you can, it'll make your day better.
Put your Armor All coating on, the stuff they put on the windshield, so it just beads up and goes away.
I love that. Awesome. Pete, do you have anything you want to share? If you're open to it, I won't put you on the spot. I'm loving your painting, Becky.
I know, I love it.
Yeah. She's in her space.
She's in her space. All right, I'll jump to Sarana. Sarana,
Crap, I'm sorry.
Becky, there you are, doll. No
your sound went out when you said my name, so I didn't realize you were talking to me. I think I will withhold any comment at this time. But thank you guys for the compliment on my painting.
Of course.
I've enjoyed listening. I have been here the whole time, and I promise I've been listening.
Awesome. Thank you.
It amazes me what I will say something is that it amazes me that we are all here and we are all adults and it is still happening. And I will agree that it's some kind of sadness in their hearts that they're projecting out into the world, and it's really unfortunate.
It is, because if you flip the lens and think, gosh, it's what can we do if we're all having each other's backs and we're all in this together, we can accomplish so much more, because this type of behavior is just utterly draining. And if you flip it, you can put the passion towards something for the better good. So that's what I'm trying to highlight. Collaboration over competition.
I have a little story, a little antidote, if you guys would like to hear that. My mother worked for who she worked for many, many, many years. And she loved her work, and she went and got a counseling degree, and she finally became a counselor after all those years. And she got a horrific boss. The woman was just mean as a snake. And it was really sad. The woman was so mean and so bad that I think after my mom finally got that position, That woman came in, and it wasn't much long after that that my mother retired. And it was heartbreaking that she didn't feel like she had any other alternatives but to quit a job that she just adored. It's really, really sad.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Poor mommy.
Oh, your mom's so sweet.
I know. She's a very sweet person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sarana, how about you?
I like the idea of forgiving the situation because I went through a situation at work where in my previous life, and I just kind of, after of course living through it and getting annoyed and frustrated and all of that, but after I left there, well, the person that contributed to the situation was moved away, which helped. And then shortly after I left, because I was disappointed by the higher ups and how they treated us. And it wasn't just me, it was a few of us. And my thought at the time was, well, if 3-4 people tell you this person is a problem and you've known them for a while and not that person, wouldn't you believe these people? How you back up that person? So from all of that, I just kind of lost respect for the higher up and decided that I was out. And I don't regret that, but the way I always looked at it was like, okay, she wasn't really worth my feeling bad or going through that. But this idea of forgiving the situation is a deeper level of that, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
That's awesome. And
I have something else I'd like to add.
Yes, please.
It's something that just occurred to me as I was talking to my mother. And Amber, you were talking about like the symptoms of bullying. And one of the symptoms that my mom dealt with was her boss was always giving her the crap jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the stuff that woman didn't want to do, the long trips, the long commutes. Oh, well, you go do it.
I had that with mine, and she would actually she gave me the bad jobs, the stuff. Anyhow, she gave me the bad jobs. And then she also, it got to where I had to document what she was giving me and talk to the rest of the team, because she was also giving it to other team members. And then I would bring it back to her and say, this is a duplication of efforts. And she would say, well, you're not a team player. You're not playing nicely with everybody. So she would always flip it back around, and I would think, and then, oh, it was crazy. She, and I worked for IBM for years. I was at the Pentagon dealing with colonels and generals. So I can talk to senior leadership very well. And she sat me down and said I needed coaching on how to talk to senior leaders, and had somebody like a newbie on the team come and give me coaching lessons. And I thought, yeah, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. No.
Oh,
so,
wow.
But
I'm gonna
when you're in it, yeah.
I'm gonna pray for this young lady, but if she says something this Sunday, I'm gonna try and use sarcasm to smooth it off. But I'm not gonna keep taking it, or I'll just not be around, And it's sad because I have team members that attend the meeting, and they're gonna say, "Why are you not at the meeting?" I'm like, because I don't want to be around. I can't say because I don't want to be around her.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, hey, I probably will not be around, or if I'm there, I'll be listening, but I won't have anything to say. If you all need me, let me know. But it shouldn't have to be that way.
No.
You shouldn't keep putting yourself in a toxic environment because it's not healthy for you. You have to make good choices for yourself.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Exactly right. I'm going to make a good choice for me.
Yep.
Yep.
There we go. Very true. So I'm going to share one thing I picked up, and then I'm going to give the floor back to Amber and see if she has anything else that she wants to say to us before adjourn. But one thing I was going to say, well, I've gotten so much out of working with you on your book, Amber. It's amazing. And so many things came back to me when I read all the stories that the ladies had shared, things that I had forgotten. I guess I had suppressed them. And I was like, oh, snap, yeah, these things happened. And so I got a ton out of the book.
Thank you.
I think the biggest thing for me is, on a very positive note, have a tribe of women. Have a group of people who you like and love and respect, and you can uplift each other. And that's my goal for this group, is to have a place where we can get together and talk freely and support each other and listen to each other. I think that's a huge part of it. So that's something that I think is important.
Thank you. That's huge. And I think I had one woman say, and I've said this too, I don't care if my circle gets smaller, as long as I know when I get up and leave the table, they're not talking about me. Like, like that's a big, in a bad way. I mean, and so it's just knowing who you can trust and who ultimately has your back as you would have theirs. And so and women need these relationships. It's a proven fact that women need each other. That's a whole nother part of the book, but yes, it's our support system.
Yes, awesome. So I'll let you have the floor. What would you like to share with us as we are about to adjourn?
I have one, and I don't know, I don't have the link handy. I have a little, maybe I will, do you have it? Can you cut and paste it?
Let me see. Hang on a second. I forgot.
I have on my website Amber's 3 ahas about regaining your sparkle. And if you are all interested in that, you can go to my website and check it out. And I think it will be in 2021, because 2020 is soon ending. But that's when my book will come out. And so Kim has worked so closely with me on this, and that is called Behind Frenemy Lines, Rising Above Female Rivalry to Be Unstoppable Together. So if you are all interested in getting my little one-pager, if you click on that link, that's how you can download it off of my website. And I'm on social media. I'm on 2B Coaching on Instagram and 2B Coaching on Facebook. And LinkedIn, I'm on there, but I'm just trying to promote that women, we need to flip this lens to highlight that we're not always having a cat fight or women being dramatic, that we have each other's backs, and we need to change this perception that women don't work well together, because I think there are some mean girls out there for sure, but I think if we let it be known that this behavior is not to be tolerated, we can flip the lens and make it a positive thing.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. You ever listen to the song Frenemy?
I have heard it, yeah. My mom, I'd sent her the title of my book, and she's like, what's this frenemy? She goes, is that a real word? I said, oh, Mom. Yeah, that's everything I do.
Great.
You said as you read her book, a lot of stuff came back. And that brought up a really good point to me, is that stuff I thought of as we were doing this, I've done pushed way down. I haven't thought about that stuff for years and years,
Yeah.
So you don't know if you need healing from what all of that mess was, or you just moved on and it's not bothering you. That's just an interesting thought that occurred to me.
I've had women say that to me, like initially it was to get their story about how it impacted them in a working environment. And then, we'd keep talking, and then realizing that, my gosh, this is impacting how I'm making friends. This is impacting the women I trust or don't trust. And not really realizing how deep-seated it truly was. And so it can be, even writing it and thinking of some of the stories that I shared, I was like, oh, wow, gosh, that's still pretty raw, even though, like you, I thought that was hidden, that was done a long time ago. But yeah, Because I think when you're faced with it again in present day, if it's happened to you before, it puts you right back in those shoes again. And so you feel all those same feelings.
Yeah, it just reminded me that in high school, I don't have any girlfriends from high school because every time you got a friendship with a girl, they'd stab you in the back. So all my friends were guys.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that in a long time, but I think I had one girlfriend in high school, period. Just
Wow.
one. We're still friends. But out of the whole shabam, none of them were close in school because every time you got one, there it comes, knife right in the back. It's crazy. And,
Wow.
and that's young in life.
Yeah. And that's before social media and all of the electronic ways that it's crazy.
I'm thankful for my tribe that I have now. I have a really big circle with a tribe of
Good. That's great.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amber.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you coming.
Thank you all. Thank you. I appreciate it. You all are a great group. Thank you for having me. It's been great to be part of your circle tonight.
Yay! Awesome, awesome. So good to see you guys. I hope you have a good rest of the evening, and I will look forward to hopefully seeing y'all soon.
In the morning. I
won't be there in the morning.
What?
I won't be there. I know. Well, I made plans to go to Charlottesville tomorrow, but Shauna will be there. And so bring your mug.
I'll bring my mug.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good night, ladies. Good to see you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.